I'm reporting from Eltopia, Washington. This is a rural farming community about, I don't know, 10, 20 miles north of Tri-Cities, where most of the people who work at the nuclear reservation reside. This is where this farm right out here, this is where my family had, about 120 some, maybe 140 some acres. I can't remember how big the land was, that stretched all the way down to there. And if you notice, like those trees are, if you look at this place on a map, the map, it ends up with this triangle that's exactly like all the triangle-shaped towns you find out there in Tule Lake, Merrill, Newell, where all the Nazis came in 1945. It pretty much replicates it right there. In fact, if you start digging deeper into a lot of the records, you're going to find all kinds of crossover into other things that mixed this farm in with a bunch of other records. It's one of the earlier forms of like trying to confuse people by mixing records. Now, why is this farm relevant? Well, it's not just any farm. This is a farm that James J. Pettigrew, who I believe is Marion David Petty of the Finders Cult, that's the cover story they used to hide him. This farm was used effectively as kind of like cover. He was being accused, I guess in a court, is what I was told, folks. This is going to have some research done because people around me are experts at concealing records. But the story that was given to me by my family is that he was being sued for being a child abuser, child molester at the time, and that he was trying to bury his money in something. And so they had this grand idea to sell all the property back there in Seattle area, Bothell and Woodinville, and get this farm out here in Eltopia. Okay, I'm just telling you as the kid of the when did all this happen. I came out here when I was 10 years old, and then we wound up on this farm, and I was the irrigator and did all kinds of, I learned hard work. I mean, it was, I didn't like it, to be honest with you, but we also did a huge alfalfa hay operation. But you definitely learn hard work, and you appreciate, it makes everything easy after that, is what I'll say. But whole other topic. But so we all came out here basically about 1985, and I was told that at the time that was basically because my grandfather had been accused of something that they said he didn't do, but it turned out he did do. And so this is one of the ways they buried the money. And so in the end, it all turned into this huge mess in our family, and everybody was chasing after the money from one person to the next. And then I don't know what wound up happening with that, except for after they sold this farm in 1989, we wound up in Rocky Flats, Colorado, where there's a plutonium factory, and there was a whole nother set of messes involving the nuclear industry. So our family has had a lot of connections to both like this type of rural community out here and the nuclear industry. And so there's more to this, because this is basically like a hub of CIA, deep state, that type of thing. How do I say it? A lot of the people that wind up in those types of jobs, they start here. They start out in these communities because, hey, nobody's out here, and they can do all kinds of things and get away with all kinds of things, including genetics and mixing of genetics. And when I've been researching things involving my past, I definitely found some anomalies and some strange things that involve genetics and people connected to some pretty significant bloodlines, without saying too much. And, people that bear more than a little bit of resemblance to a celebrity, I'll put it that way. And you'll find that a lot out here in these rural schools that didn't have that many students. And so this is Eltopia. We used to have to bus, like 20 miles north of here and go to school in Connell. And that's where, like, lately I was kind of going like, some of these people that I'm seeing on TV look a little bit familiar to me. And I think I might have actually seen them from out there before, but they are using some kind of face masking or something, but their essence definitely seemed familiar to me. And I was like, as I started researching all these other things, and anyways, it's all out here, folks. You start researching this, what happened out here at the Hanford Nuclear Reservation with the Human Genome Project. Why were we here between 1985 to 1989? Why did we wind up at another nuclear reservation after that? I have questions, but I don't necessarily get answers. I do the research, I do the digging on the records and things like that. Then, I get to a certain point where it's compelling and I can show people things, but then there's this. But I just want to give you some background on why we wound up here, what this place is, why I drove out here. That was our family farm from 1985 to 1989. Out yonder was the Hanford nuclear reservation, about several miles. You just go out that way. About 7-8 miles, you had whoops, active nuclear stacks. You could see them back in the day. If you got close enough to this ridge line, you could see them. So I grew up in an era where nuclear was that normal. Just something for y'all to think about, okay?